Start with the news of the day down in New Orleans. Michael Thomas, Saints wide receiver, has not played this season. We keep using the phrase when Michael Thomas comes back, when they get Thomas back, when can't guard Mike's back on the field. Well, today that all changed. If you go to Twitter and read Michael Thomas's latest post, and I quote, "I've always been a man of faith. In these past few months, my faith has truly been tested. As many of you know, early last season, I injured my ankle and worked extremely hard over the next few months to get back in time to finish the season. Unfortunately, the rehab did not go as planned, and earlier this offseason, it was apparent I would need to have a procedure to repair the injury. Since then, the team and I have worked diligently day and night to rehab and get me back on the field. Unfortunately, there's been another small setback, which we will have to address. To my displeasure, I will not be able to make it back in time for this season, but will do everything in my power to get back to the player I have always been. I know God doesn't make mistakes, so I will continue to follow in his path. I can't wait to be back on the field and in front of the best fans on the planet." In short, Michael Thomas had a rehab setback and will not play the rest of the season. Jeremy, your initial thoughts on that?
Just very unfortunate, especially for Saints fans, for that organization. You would hope that, Mike could have came into the season healthier. Obviously, he had plenty of time to have the surgery, but, some conflicting stories back and forth, obviously, with the team and him all throughout the offseason that kind of, rolled over into the season. And then now you see he was not able to, recover from that same surgery, and now it looks like there's some more issues going on. So that's a huge blow for this team. You would have loved to have him back, especially for that playoff push and being in the division with the Bucs. They're going to be right there the whole time. He's going to be an essential part of this offense, especially for a quarterback that, is not Drew Brees, doesn't have over 70,000 passing yards. It's great to have a receiver like can't guard Mike out there, and obviously he's not going to be out there anymore. So huge blow for the Saints. It's just going to be the guys you've seen all season have to step up and play bigger roles.
Yeah, about that. Can't guard Mike Thomas. He's an all-pro. He's one of the best wide receivers in football. You can make the case that at a time there he was the best wide receiver in the NFL when he was cooking with Drew in this Sean Payton offense. The Saints have built an extraordinary defense that is among the best in the NFL. They have a strong offensive line, an excellent tailback, and one of the best play callers in the history of the league. And it was pretty easy to build your narrative around the fact that the defense is playing well. They've survived some of the stuff in the early season. They're getting some guys back healthy. You get the offensive line put back together. Onyemata comes back, getting Lattimore a little bit more healthy. We're going to be okay, and we'll be better when Jameis gets a little more confidence. Sean Payton trusts him a little bit more. They get Michael Thomas back, and that's when the Saints will go on their run. Well, now Jameis isn't coming back, and Michael Thomas is not coming back. So that means on the outside, you've got some combination of Marquez Callaway, Traquan Smith, Deontay Harris, Kevin White, Ty Montgomery, and with Jameis Winston and this limited receiving core, and I'm being kind calling it a limited receiving core, the Saints have thrown the ball 194 times this year. That is dead last in the NFL. The Bears are second fewest. They've thrown it 10 more times. The Saints throw it 28 times a game. That's also last in the NFL. This passing game with a backup quarterback that may likely be Taysom Hill and no proven wide receiver at all, I have a hard time seeing it getting a lot better.
Yeah, you're fighting an uphill battle now. Obviously, you need all your guns, especially in a division like they're in with the Bucs. That's a measuring stick. Obviously, they just won a Super Bowl, and the Saints have had their way with them during the regular season. So you feel like you can be extremely competitive. But, man, well, the Bucs are only going to get their two starting cornerbacks back, and then they're going to be going against the Callaways and the Smiths of the world that the Saints have. Obviously, those aren't Pro Bowl, all-pro guys at the outside position, and you see why Sean Payton has call games the way he has this season. You don't want to keep putting those guys out on routes, especially with some of the defensive backs we have in this league. It's just an uphill battle. So I think for Sean Payton and the crew, he's got to continue to run the crap out of the ball. It's probably more rush attempts you've ever seen from a Sean Payton offense, and that's going to be their way to win football games this year. Going to have to play very, very stingy defense and run the crap out of the ball. It's going to pretty much look like a Les Miles offense if we ever seen one.
The Saints are tied for second in the league in rushing attempts per game behind the Titans. Obviously, the Titans have lost their go-to running back in Derrick Henry. The Saints are ninth in the NFL in rushing yards per game. They are 21st in the league in yards per carry. And as I look at this, with no proven playmaker on the outside, with what may amount to Taysom Hill, he's not really a quarterback, playing quarterback, I've got to think running the football is going to become difficult for this team. being that teams are going to dare you to stretch the field, and Taysom has not been accurate with the deep ball, and you don't have anybody that scares people other than at times Deontay Harris, but that's not really a conventional deep threat. It looks ominous to me, I'll be honest. It looks ominous on the offensive side to me.
Yeah, it does. It's a true uphill battle that they're going to have to climb, especially you lose Mike. You were planning to have him back, obviously, and obviously those plans are out of the window now. So you're going to have to continue to do what Sean's been doing all season, and that's just really run the crap out of the ball. There really is no other option. You don't want
Yeah, but is that going to work?
I mean, I don't know. I think there's ways to do it. Obviously, you're going to have to run a ton of play action, but the Saints' worst nightmare is Taysom Hill throwing 50 passes in a game, Trevor Siemian throwing 50 passes in a game, and God forbid Ian Book gets out there and has to throw it that much. It's not what you want to see. The beauty of that is, though, the Saints do have David Onyemata back. Their defense is playing like their hair's on fire. It's going to be tough for teams to score 28, 30 points on a week-in and week-out basis on that defense. So you're giving yourself a fighting chance, but if you're only scoring 14, 10 points, it's going to be a total uphill battle. So not good news for the Saints, but if there's a coach that I was going to have faith in to figure out a way to get it done, it'd be Sean Payton.
Look, I get all the disclaimers, and you say one right there. You got Sean Payton, and you got a great offensive line. You got a great defense, and the Broncos did it with a limited Peyton Manning running the ball and playing great defense, and they're a really good running team, and they put themselves in good position, all that stuff. But I'm just looking at the big picture here. I'm looking at a far less than average NFL quarterback, whether it's Simeon or Taysom Hill, and one of the worst wide receiving cores in the league. That's what I see from here. That, to me, looks like an Achilles heel that I don't think they can shape back from. I don't know. I was skeptical last week, yesterday, when we were talking about what Simeon or Hill could do. Now when I look at this, I don't think the Saints are going to make the playoffs. I think Thomas is that important on the outside to at least garner some attention and knock these guys down a peg. Let Marquez Callaway be a second or third option. Let Traquan Smith be a second or third option. Let Deontay Harris. Now everybody's got to move up a peg. Who's the number one guy? Is there anyone on this list that you feel good going against a Pro Bowl type corner and winning consistently in a big game? I don't see it.
No, they don't have that guy. And to have that guy, you'd have to have an all-pro, a Pro Bowl guy, and they just don't have that on the roster at this point. So teams are just going to run a ton of man. They're going to put 8 guys, sometimes 9 in the box, and really force these receivers on the outside to win consistently. And if you can't do that, if you can't have a quarterback to throw the ball accurately down the field, especially if you don't have the run game going, you're going to find yourself in a lot of low-scoring games, and you're going to really be putting a ton of pressure on your defense to create turnovers, which they have. But to do that all year long and to go against some of these offense you're going to have to go against, especially if you're a wild card team, do you feel good about them going against any of these teams that are in the playoff hunt right now? The Cardinals, the Cowboys, the Bucks, the Packers are just, the NFC is just so stacked from top to bottom. You don't feel good about going against any of those teams, but I keep saying it. If that defense keeps playing like they're playing and they're getting turnovers, you're going to be in every game. It's just going to be a matter if you don't turn it over and if you can keep that run game going like they have.
Ivy Bear in the Bayou Ford chat over on YouTube says, I completely disagree with this take. Winston didn't do anything to be nice. Thomas has been absent for 2 years, and they won the division last year. Sean Payton is in his wheelhouse with this situation. I just disagree. I think Sean Payton's wheelhouse involves Marcus Colston, Michael Thomas, Drew Brees, and Jimmy Graham and studs on the outside. I'm not suggesting that he'll totally fail and they can't win another game like the Broncos when they were playing God knows what at quarterback last year because they didn't have any left. But I just don't think when you're the Saints organization, and we laid this out yesterday at what this organization is in this league. They are in the category with the Patriots, the Seahawks, the Ravens, the Steelers, the Packers. That's who they're in the stratosphere with. And at that point, you're talking about winning divisions and winning conference championships and competing for Super Bowls. And I don't see it from this team. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Now, I could be wrong. I think this defense is awesome. And I think Sean Payton is awesome. And I think he'll get creative. And I think they'll be in some games. But in this conference, with as good as these teams are playing, from Arizona to the Rams to the Packers to the Bucks to the Cowboys, for me to put the Saints in a category with those teams right now is difficult. And you could raise your hand or wreck your car or whatever and say, they just beat the Bucks. I watched. I saw. I just don't love it. I don't love the prospects. I could be talked into a scenario where the Saints really make a run with Jameis Winston at the full season under his belt in Sean Payton's offense as the starter and Michael Thomas coming back and them getting healthy on the defensive end. I could make that argument that they could make a run in January. I don't personally see it.
I'm looking at it now, and the Saints are actually not in too bad of a spot. I mean, the NFC is very top heavy. You got the Cowboys, obviously the Cardinals, the Rams. But if you look, other than that, a lot of these teams already have 4 and 5 losses. The Saints to be at 2 losses at this point in the season, I think they're in a great spot. Obviously, they're going to be a team that gets the number 1 seed, but you got 6 other spots. So they just got to keep themselves afloat. And I think with that defense, that's exactly what they're going to be doing. It's just a matter of can you score 25, 24 points every week to really put your defense in a spot to play lights out and maybe get a lead. It's gonna be tough, but I think that, like I keep saying, Sean Payton, that's the dude, man. I love him as a coach. He's done a phenomenal job. Obviously, with Drew Brees, every time Drew Brees seems to be out of that lineup, they seem to find a way to step up and play huge. So until that goes the other way, I'm gonna continue to stick with Sean Payton.
I'll tell you one thing that it's gonna be is interesting. It'll be interesting to watch them and how he handles this because you knew what you were gonna get there for about 12 years when Breeze was under center and Peyton was calling plays. Like, this is what it will look like. Some days they executed better than others. Some days they usually won more than they lost. This will be interesting because I have no idea. Now, I realize Taysom played last year and Mike Thomas was hurt most of the year, but this will be interesting to watch for sure for the rest of the year. And I keep saying Taysom. Maybe it's Simeon. That's just my thought that it'll be Taysom Hill. We'll find out on Sunday when they host the Falcons. The last part of this before we get to Pete Butek is, what do we make of Mike Thomas?
Very mercurial. I think that's what I'll put about him. I think that's the nicest way you can put it. Just a guy that you really, whatever day you don't know which Mike is going to show up. Obviously, you want a guy committed to your team, or want a guy that wants to be hungry to win a Super Bowl and accomplish all those things that I know Sean Payton, burns the midnight oil trying to accomplish every year. You want all your guys to be on that. I don't know if Mike's there to this point, just the way he handled the injury situation. Obviously, I don't know how hurt he is to this point, but you got to have your best player, especially right now. You go AK, and then you go Mike. Those are the guys you depend on. You got to have your best player there every day working to try to win a Super Bowl, and that's just not been the case with Big Mike.
Saints fans are mad today. Now, they will cheer up pretty quickly if he comes back out there next year and sets the NFL receptions record, and the Saints go 13-4, and you win the fan base back pretty quick. But does it matter that people in the black and gold are very irritated with what may be the best player on their team?
It just depends on who you ask. Does it matter to can't guard Mike? I don't think so. Yeah. Does it matter to the Saints organization? I don't think so. I think they're gonna do everything in their power to keep that guy around. You don't get all pro receivers who have the amount of catches and yards and touchdowns that he has falling off trees. Those guys are hard to come by. And I think the Saints are going to do everything in their power. They just paid him a ton of money, so I don't see them really moving on. They're going to give him a chance to get healthy and roll this thing back next year.